New figures reveal the nation's rental market is close to breaking point, with a growing number of properties now out of reach for many Australians. Domain's quarterly rental report shows that despite competition for rentals being as fierce as ever, with vacancy levels at a record low, rents are no longer rising everywhere, which suggests affordability is now the most pressing concern. For more, Domain National Property Editor Alice Stolz joins us now. Alice, great to speak with you. How much does this latest data and information underscore the cost of living concerns across the country?
Good afternoon, Lynn. Well, I think it illustrates that the rental crisis isn't easing, it's just going into a new phase. And by that, I mean we've got record high rents, record low vacancy rates all around the country, but we are beginning to see certain price points in certain cities plateauing. So we're not seeing those sort of breakneck rental increases that we have seen over the past few years, but certainly tenants are at the absolute cold face of this and are bearing the brunt of these rent increases and what is an incredibly tight market.
Alice, can you give us a sense of who is being squeezed the hardest here, and how does the data compare across the country as well?
Look, I think renters in Sydney are certainly bearing the brunt of this. House rents in Sydney are up to $800. Now, although there hasn't been a quarterly change, we have still seen an annual increase on rent. But I think also what we're seeing is that fluidity, I suppose, in the unit market. Now, we know that for many renters, they're out there seeking more affordable options, so they're going further down the train line. They're also looking at different types of accommodation. They would have once wanted a house had it been for a family, and now they're compromising going to a townhouse apartment or a unit. Now, we're certainly seeing that play out in different areas. The vacancy rates in Perth at the moment are incredibly low. They're the lowest around the country after Darwin and Hobart. Now, what we're seeing there is just a complete lack of supply on the market, and rental house prices which are not very far underneath what people are paying in the Sydney market. So we're really seeing a disparity take place around the country, and by contrast to that, the Melbourne market is actually the most affordable market to rent at the moment, with house prices there actually even less than what you pay for a unit. So you can see that great disparity is kind of widening all around the country at the moment.
Yeah, given that affordability is such an issue in places like Perth right now, what is it going to tell us about where rents will head over the course of this year?
Look, what's really interesting is when you see vacancy rates reach these record lows, we would have expected to see a sharper uptick in rental asks and demands, that is. That's not playing out except for that Perth market. So really that could be quite foreboding of what is to come for the rest of the country, what is actually playing out in Perth. And I think that underscores the sort of irreverent and contrarian trend that we're seeing here, that we have a market like Western Australia almost unfortunately leading the way at these sort of record increases. And that lag is likely to play out on the other side of Australia, probably in the next data that we see later this year, knowing that supply has not been resolved, and as such, the crisis remains.
So then what is the fix here with this rental affordability problem, and does it just come back to supply?
Look, supply is certainly part of it, and I think what's really salient here is that for years we've talked about the difficulty around first home buyers getting into the home ownership market. We're seeing the same pressures and tensions exist in the rental market. So it's absolutely imperative that we address supply that's appropriate for rental accommodation, and by that I mean all levels of the rental market, whether that's build to rent, whether that's low income earners having appropriate housing, and other even downsizers having rental options for them at a more potentially affluent end of the market. The supply has to be fit for what the demographic wants, and also in locations that people want them. Supply is a huge part of it, but we also need government pulling on every lever as well as industry to do what it takes to get more supply to market, while also ensuring that tenants are protected and continue to be supported in their quest to find safe and affordable housing.
Alice Stolz, we're out of time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.